Hello from the gravel pits at Moses Gate. We're at Ratcliffe Road, Croft side, leads to the entrance. This is the gravel pits on the Ratcliffe Road side of Moses Gate. It's the entrance which and the side with all the wildlife and the sections which kind of people don't visit but really should. So this area I'm in, the gravel pits, has been managed for about nearly 20 years now. Actually, it's going on to 20 years. Unfortunately, even though there's been £40,000 in grants which has gone to this section for a local community group, there wasn't actually any management of the ponds. They did other management, they did some path work, but there was no management of the ponds. And what that means now is Greater Manchester Ecology Unit has come in here, and because we've got great crested newts and endangered species, they've had to step in and basically blast and crater the area. So we're going back to year zero, as it were, on these ponds. Now, back in about 2005, 2007, this has already previously been done. And what can happen is if you do zero management of the ponds, you're not removing the silt, you kind of divide it into 3 sections or sometimes 4 sections, and each year you take out a section so you don't completely remove all the wildlife of the great crested newts, and then you go through it in each section, that way they can recover, but you're taking out the silt. If you don't remove the silt, you end up with forests. As you can see, all these trees behind me, they're all from the 1970s. None of these trees were here prior to that section of the gravel pits being taken, the gravel from here, and made St. Peter's Way. So we're going to show you around here just how brutal this action needs to be taken to restore this to a wetland for great crested newts. So I'm going to turn the camera around, and those who've come to the gravel pits, you're going to be in for a very big shock. Okay? So actually I can't turn the camera around because I'm thinking right recording. So this is the northernmost pond. It has been brutally scraped out to the point of just resetting it back to zero. So the ground around it has been raised up by about 1 foot, 2 foot, because of all the silt that has had to be digging out. Now, if you divide that over the years, it's actually not a lot of work just to get, you know, the chromes in there. You can have volunteers do it, remove the leaf litter, just keep on top of it. It's not too bad, but as you can see, what's had to happen, there's no vegetation left at all from these areas, and that's standard. Greater Manchester Ecology Unit, from what I've seen, the work they've done, fantastic work what they've done. It's your standard technique you do when restoring a pond back to zero. Now, annoyingly, the local group has had £40,000. The money could have been used to carry out this kind of work in sections prior to this brutal stage. And as you can see behind me, something very important. You see how it's got a gradient? That's to ensure that the great crested newts aren't trapped in pits. They can actually climb out of there, along with the other insects and dragonflies and everything else. And all the bulrush has been ripped out. In general, you're talking, you should really never ever have bulrush in a pond that's less than 25 square meters, because it will just take over the entire section. So that's one pond you've seen behind me, completely ripped out. We've got another one completely ripped out. It's as though they would only do this basically in a brand new area. So the 2 scenarios are, one, they come into a brand new area and they make brand new ponds. The second scenario is there's been zero management of the ponds for the last 15 years, and it's the exact same scenario, as though nothing has ever been done in these areas. So we come to this next, the third pond. This has also been completely gutted. It just barren like it was in the 1970s. And as I'm walking here, you can see my feet sinking into 1 foot and 2 foot of mud. So I can't even walk this way because it's so dense and thick. I'm going to walk the other way. And rather than being a live video, because I've had issues recently, if you come down to the gravel pits, you do a live video, there's no signal, so it cuts out, the quality's not as good. So I've just recorded this morning, simple walk around and talk about the area. So as I'm just walking to the next one to show you this area, this section is the 3rd section of the gravel pits. Now this is the wildlife section. It's a section which they don't really want to promote people to come through too much. You've got paths and people can come through, but it's a little bit muddy intentionally. And then you got the second section, which has got the proper pathwork, so people can go through there, walk the dogs through there. And then the first one, which is really public, dipping ponds, areas like that. Now the middle section is the one where you find lots of mushrooms. You've got all the algae, the moss, really damp, nice areas where there's not too much tree cover, but just enough for all that dead wood, which the mushrooms and fungi like. So as you look behind me, look at that. Remember when it was filled with wildlife? And the sad thing is, I've done surveys here, so I've got a rough idea of what I would expect to find. And unfortunately, you were talking probably 2 to 4 ponds with great crested newts in at the most. Now, originally 15 years ago, when they did the study and when they created the ponds and established them a little bit, we were talking upwards of 10 and upwards of 5 potential great crested newts. So unfortunately, because of the group not managing the wetlands and instead focusing on the actual, I'm not sure what they focused on. Obviously I'm not going to name that group because it's not about that. This video is about the public knowing about the work that takes place, what a fantastic area this now has the potential to be. Because originally, go back to 2005, 2004, it was kind of some key years where you could come down here and see just hordes of dragonflies, you know, 15 dragonflies, 20 dragonflies at the dipping pond. They'd go into the meadow section, they'd harden up after coming out of the water, and they'd fly off through the ponds. And Great Manchester Record Unit, work they've done here, absolutely spot on. It's the exact kind of work that was unfortunately desperately needed, and they have come out and done that. So, you know, absolute kudos to Great Manchester Record Unit. The only thing is that for local residents to see this, it's going to be shocking, it's going to be a bit upsetting, and we are talking probably 3-4 years before we kind of recover to well, you're going to have stages. You're going to have stages where the vegetation comes back, but you're talking a lot longer for, say, dragonflies. You're talking 3 to 5 years where the larvae before they come out as dragonflies, but already it was already lost. So in that sense, oh, mushrooms. It wasn't. See, that's a point actually. I'll just show you some mushrooms behind me with the camera. Unfortunately, I can't flick it round because, you know, you probably see me fall down. Look at all those mushrooms. This is why people should come to the gravel pits, because there's still tons of mushrooms all through those trees. Just needs to be a bit willing to explore and have a look around. So further up that way, one of the ponds, really surrounded by trees. I mean, for my liking, I would have taken out a lot more trees around the south side of that pond. But I understand it's always good to have a variety of different ponds, different light levels. Then it changes the different temperatures, different insects you'll have inside of it. Wow, there's a lot of mushrooms here today. Yeah, so if you were thinking of going out with the kids for a walk somewhere, definitely, if you want to go mushroom foraging, Ratcliffe Road, you got Croft Side. Please park to the side and be respectful for residents because they do live around here. Or you could just walk it. Hey, walk, that's a great thing to do. It's an easy, it's from my house in Breitman and Garstang. 10-minute walk, nothing at all. See, fly Garricks. And just come down here and show the kids all the mushrooms. Look, literally by the path. I'll just get a camera. There you go. Nice fly Garricks everywhere. It's a really good sight actually, fly Garricks in general. You can't really mistake them for anything, and definitely don't lick them or taste them. Really wouldn't recommend that. Some of you already do, let's face it. So we've actually, for most foraging, mushroom walking kind of stuff, it's kind of skipping through. Oh, that's beautiful, that's come up. The different phases, we're kind of coming to the end of those phases. But even so, you're still going to find mushrooms everywhere. Look, just down at my feet. You just need to get your eye into it. There you go. Look. Mushrooms. And they're only going to last a few days. Sometimes weeks. Before they start changing colours and rotting and the spores being released. And there we go, another one. Look at that beauty. So if you want the kids to have a great time in the forest and want to get a bit excited about nature, just come down with the family and be like, see how many mushrooms you can spot, see if you can find different colours. What colours can you find of the mushrooms? I should do it with my kids actually, what I'm saying, so other people should do it. I need to do it. Now the issue with the gravel pits, very muddy. It's a wellies job without a doubt. There's little offbeat paths like I'm doing at the moment, but what you can do is you can follow the animal trails. So the foxes have been nice enough, and the deer have been nice enough to lead us through paths, and I can practically walk through this with my eyes closed, and they'll all reconnect. It's not one of those places where you're going to get lost in the forest, but it is a really beautiful place. It's just a shame we've had to go back to year zero on the ponds. It is for the long-term benefit. Like I said, Great Manchester Ecology Unit, kudos to them for coming to Bolton, putting this time and money in and doing actually a really proper job. I'm going to look like a nutcase because there's people over there talking to myself on the camera. Don't want to look crazy. See that guy talking to himself in the forest. See, I'll look crazy if I start talking. So yeah, I'm not sure if they're going to carry out more work. I imagine Great Manchester Ecology Unit would, and it is entirely, and this is the truth, it is entirely Great Manchester Ecology Unit who's doing this work, who's using the chainsaws, who's digging out the ponds, and they're going to be done under supervision by Great Manchester Ecology Unit with a Great Crested Newt licence. And the ponds, really, they're really quite simple when they're making these ponds. There's just a few simple rules. So if you're taking the vegetation out, it's usually a case of, if you're doing it volunteers and we're using rakes and stuff, you put the vegetation to the side to allow the invertebrates and little aquatic mini beasts to go back into the ponds. If you were using a digger, then what you don't want to do is make a pit, because nothing's getting out of there and they're all dying in the water. So you put a nice little bit of a, I'm going to get mocked for this, gradient. And the better the gradient, the better pond it's going to be, because what it means is the angle. If you think you've got a really steep angle, it means that everything's at, say, 1 foot all the way around, and that means it's going to be at the same temperature. Now, if you've got a nice angle coming into the pond, it means you're going to have varying degrees of temperature. So like near the surface, the first 5 centimeters, it's going to be really quite hot from the summer heat, but at the 10 centimeter, apparently that's the best water quality for all aquatic life, where you find the most mini beasts, let's put it. I'm not going to go through all the names, and it's true. So if you think, when you've been to a pond and you've had a look at the ponds, and where do you find the frogs spawning? They're not spawning and laying in the middle of the pond, they're laying on the very edge of the pond in usually 10 centimeters. So I know where there's some yellow flag iris. That yellow flag iris, it raises the ground slightly but keeps it at a big basin area of about 10 centimeters, and they completely cover that area. It's like almost like a hot tub for frogs in that sense. And every year, the last 8 years, in the same spot, that's where they go. And that's the importance of habitats and variation of habitats, because like I said before, I was mentioning the ones over there, big scrapes, deep ponds, 2.5 feet deep at least, but they're varied as well. There's little hills in the middle, and then we've got this one behind me over here, which is a new scrape by Great Manchester Ecology Unit. They've intentionally put a hedge in the way to stop dogs going into it, and there's also trees around that. Now that means that the temperature is going to be a bit lower than the others, but it means those mini beasts that like that variation in temperature will be going in there. And yet again, they've scraped the path down so it's not a pit, and there's a bit of a do you or don't you situation when it comes to dogs. Now they've put signs up saying please don't let your dogs go into the ponds, and that's very true actually. It's a big point for these ponds which have been newly established. If you want them to be established quicker, please don't let your dogs go in the pond, because what they're going to do is, and without even knowing this, when you're a dog walker, the dogs are going to rip up the vegetation, and it's going to stop that vegetation taking hold. So it's almost like having volunteers actually ripping out all the vegetation in a sense, but we don't want that when they're brand new ponds. We really wanted it when they were absolutely knackered. It'd be great having as much dogs as we could in there to rip all the vegetation, but that moment's gone, unfortunately. This is year zero. Please don't let your dogs go in the big ponds as the vegetation comes in there. Now I'm only going to have to assume that Great Manchester Ecology Unit has made a plan to let it naturally go back to the way it was. I don't know if they're going to introduce any species like water violet, which I love, and they've got loads of water violet on this site. I don't think they're going to be introducing the lesser bulrush, which is, you can see, it's a little hard to see through these trees. But behind me, as you walk into the gravel pits, this section is just absolutely full of lesser bulrush and nothing else. And it should be about 10%, 20% of a 20% at a maximum. I'd rather see 10% of a pond, and you should never put it in below 25 square meters anyway. And dragonflies use that for climbing up, and usually find it where it's absolutely just full of silt and nitrates, so quite heavy soil conditions, and that's how it takes root and it takes over, as demonstrated at the gravel pits. Now, all of this is really good news regarding Great Master Ecology Unit being here. I have contacted them. I've asked for to improve best practice by sharing information of the work they're doing here, so we can know what they're doing, because we do leave Ewing Park, we do Newhouse Farm, there's great crested newts there. I've had no response, which I know they're really busy, and I'm sure they're going to get back to me. I would advise getting back to me. Oh God, because we really just want to do some good work and conservation for the benefit of everyone. And as we leave the gravel pits, I'm going to turn the camera around because there's people looking at me while I'm talking. Morning! Morning. Sorry, just doing a video.
I thought you was holding it.
Yeah, I'm doing a video just about the work.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay, it's okay. So, summarise the state of the gravel pits and the work that he's doing. Can't be summed up better than the sign being on the floor of the gravel pits for the last 3-4 months. I love this place because I used to manage it. I'd even go and do my own work because I used to get annoyed that the ponds weren't being managed, and then I get berated for managing the ponds because they didn't know how to manage them. True though. But no, I would have liked to see the money for the gravel pits, that £40,000, spent in a lot of different ways, because then it wouldn't have needed to have Great Master Ecology Unit come in like they have done. But I'm really hopeful for the future, because GPAG is, I mentioned them, it's true, quite a elderly group now, not as active as it wants to be, the members are, but there's some really good news in that Spawn has started work on the Moses Gate side, at the entrance to Moses Gate, and I think over time it's kind of inevitable that GPAG will probably fall away, and Spawn will probably have an opportunity to manage the gravel pits. And I've already spoken to a lot of people, and they also can see this happening. Just hope Spawn gets established well, get some grant funding in, and they have a lot of real potential and motivation to, because we're not talking a 5-year project with the gravel pits, we're talking decades where groups could maintain and need to maintain this. And Great Master Ecology Unit needs to be aware that they need to think of decades, not years, the long-term strategy for these places. And that's what a lot of grant funders are about these years. They want to know what you're going to do, not for this year, but for the years to come. Because it's all very well and good when you can do a grant, get a project, do a really nice project for that year, and then you do one to the other side of the town, never touch that area again, and within a few years that area is completely lost and it was pointless doing any work. So it's really important any work that does get done has the long-term management, and I'm really hopeful that Spawn will actually represent that long-term management, which are coming into Ratcliffe Road, Moses Gate, Canal side, History side. So much potential for them. I'm really kind of excited because I really do love this area, and fingers crossed. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. A little bit long, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got to see the total carnage of what happens when you have to reset a pond back to year 0. And please don't let your dogs go in those ponds. It's going to take quite a few years for vegetation to take hold. If your dog's going in there, it's ripping out the vegetation. There's loads of other ponds that your dogs will be able to jump into, which they do anyway. So dipping pond's a good one. Dogs already jump into those, it's no issue, they have been for years. So maybe stick to that one if you don't mind. So thank you for watching the video. Hope you really enjoyed it. I just burped, which I didn't mean to. And I need to get in shape because I'm really unfit. Oh, I'll show you something else. As you're walking down here on Croftside, which you've got the lovely farm, Ratcliffe Road up there, and this is Croftside that comes down here, and you can see the path I've taken. This hedgerow, which was planted years and years ago, is now established. And as you walk down here with the kids, every day it's absolutely full of sparrows. It's really nice. There's also another section in Breakmilk which is just full of sparrows. You're talking like 20-30 sparrows, which is the St Osmunds and Andrews School. Opposite there is a hedgerow full of the sparrows, and magpies are up there watching, and goes to show you the importance of hedgerows and habitats and diversifying the land to support all these different animals and mini beasts. So thank you for watching again, and have a nice day.